Hi, this is a video about art styles. Not particularly how to make them, but about how different artists carry different weight in prompting. I was curious, essentially, as to which artists carry the most weight, and so I worked out a way I hope that tests it. So I'll just put up my ComfyUI screen. You can see I've done absolutely nothing that's very exciting here. It's a basic setup with a very simple prompt. I didn't start with this prompt. What led me to this was looking at what the AI produced on a very minimal prompt, which was just a girl with a slight smile and the artist's name. So there's a selection of these. So this was Gustav Klimt, which is fairly recognisable, I suppose. This is Albrecht Dürer, which is vaguely Renaissance, I suppose. It's quite a nice image, though. Caravaggio, which has a bit of a feel of Caravaggio, I suppose. Leonardo, it's not quite the Mona Lisa, but a good try. Michelangelo, this is not like Michelangelo at all. Has it ever seen a Michelangelo? Presumably. Anyway, Rembrandt, again, there's a sort of hint of Rembrandt lighting, but it's a photograph, isn't it, with a few trimmings. This is Singer Sargent, a slightly better job on this one. Again, it's pretty much a photograph with a few trimmings as well. And this seems to be the story of prompting for painters and painting styles. It produces a sort of a slightly adapted photo. This is slightly better. This is Toulouse-Lautrec, and it does look a bit more drawn and painted. So I think that's a good one. Picasso, I had to prompt Cubist. Before that, it produced something that was not even vaguely Picasso. This is sort of Picasso light. It reacted very strongly to Salvador Dali. So Salvador Dali is a very strong artist to prompt. It's easily the most on theme and coherent image, almost anyway. This is Degas. It has a bit of a feel of Degas and his little ballerinas, I suppose. And again, the AI has nothing to go on but girl and a slight smile, and that's it. This is Frans Hals, which is, well, it's a smile anyway for the Laughing Cavalier. This is Bob Ross, who's a TV artist. It seems to know Bob Ross better than it does Michelangelo. It obviously thinks more of Bob Ross than Michelangelo. This is Goya, which has a bit of a feel of some of Goya. I can sort of see something Goya-ish in there. It seems to know what period each artist is from, at least. Alphonse Mucha is another extremely strong artist to prompt. Swamps anything, really. You put Alphonse Mucha in, that's it. You get 100% Alphonse Mucha. And also William Morris. Here's William Morris. And I looked up the database of artists that are in the training of the Stable Diffusion models, and certain artists are way at the top. William Morris is right up there for some reason. Don't quite know why. So that's our artist, and the next thing I did was try and work out a way of showing what each artist's name gives to a generation, and also what do the style prompts like drawing and painting and illustration and so on do. So that's what we'll do next. So here we are, and here's my prompt that I'm using, and I'm using it for quite a specific reason, and that I want to make it hard for the AI. So AIs do not like areas where there's not much stuff. So I've made a very strong white wall and thrown shadow, which AIs are very, very bad at. They sort of vaguely know that it should relate to the figure, but they don't know anything about what the relationship should be. So the shadows very often don't fit. So this is without any drawing style prompt. So this is just a photo. That's the prompt, just a single line, nothing in the negative at all. So this is what we get if we do a sketch, which is vaguely drawn, I suppose. It's not too bad. Pencil sketch, if we go between those, pretty much the same thing. Pencil sketch is a little bit rougher and more textured, so there's more paper involved. Pen sketch is the difference between, I suppose the dark lines are a little bit better. Pen sketch is quite good actually for for this sort of thing. Watercolour sketch, which is quite nice, I suppose. I quite like the watercolour. Watercolour is quite a strong medium prompt, I think. Oil sketch is more difficult. It doesn't quite get oils. The girl's face isn't too bad, but I don't know quite what is happening. I think that's a sketch on the background rather than... And this is just a straight watercolour without the sketch, which produces a slightly softer feel. This is watercolour illustration, which puts back the line. You see the very strange shadows here and there, really, and the paper texture gets stronger. And line and wash, which I think works rather well. It's quite a nice prompt, line and wash. Pen drawing. Well, it's not much different from illustration, is it, essentially? It doesn't quite understand pen drawing, I don't think. Line art, well, it's just produced a CGI. It doesn't know what line art is, essentially, I don't think. So this is a sort of CGI, slightly mangry image. Brush drawing, it's the same as pen drawing, really. It doesn't distinguish between brush drawing and pen drawing. Pencil drawing, once again, slightly softer outline. Again, it doesn't know what pencil drawing is, no idea. Charcoal drawing has no idea at all. The same as pencil drawing, but a little bit more rendered, I suppose. Cartoon drawing, we get a bit of a stronger reaction from this, and a very funky shadow. So this is a change of style here, I suppose. But the outlines are nice and crisp. So cartoon is quite a strong style point. Vector art is fairly strong as well. It produces quite nice, crisp tonal shapes, which I think could be useful in certain circumstances. Comic illustration is what you'd expect, really. It's pretty good. It's quite a strong one to use. I think comic illustration works quite well. Just illustration produces much the same as many others, same as the oil painting or whatever. Just illustration by itself isn't terribly strong. It needs a sort of illustration to go with it. So as you see, as soon as you add fashion, the whole lot gains impact and coherency. Anime, of course, is very strong. I don't like anime, I have to say, but it's a very strong style prompt. Cartoon, which again works rather well. Caricature, it works fairly well. It's like cartoon with a little bit more rendering. I don't know why caricature should do that. And a little bit less realistic. Game art, well, there you go. I suppose that would go in a game, all right. Concept art, it goes a little bit serious and full of itself. And I noticed that there's a little bit more of the place. So concept art is probably a good one for a figure in an environment or whatever. Well, I'm probably just guessing there, but this is really just to supply information for you to make your decision on what you like. Pixar, extremely strong, obviously. Extremely cross-eyed as well, but very, very strong. But it always gives you the same stuff. But you can mix these, of course. So Pixar and another thing might work well. But whatever, what I'm trying to identify are the strong influences, and this is one of the very strong influences. Painting is not strong at all. It's essentially a photograph. It doesn't really know what painting is. Oil painting, as soon as you add a sort of painting, then it improves. So this is much more of a made image. Oil painting, and I've given it weight here. Again, if you give it weight, it'll bring the figure nearer. But there's some quite nice textures in the background that I could see working quite well. It does rather squared off brushstroke stuff. Pastel painting, it has not even the first idea how to pastel painting or what it is even. Pointillist, well, there's dots. That's about all I can say. There's dots. This one I put everything in just to see, and this is the most it'll do for paint texture, which is possibly quite an interesting effect. It's, they're definitely paint strokes, aren't they? It was very proud of this one because it signed it. Impressionist does something a little bit similar, but more controlled. I think Impressionist is a very useful one, but it has to be teamed with painting. By itself, it doesn't work very well. So that is various media and a few styles. I'm now going to do what the artists and illustrators, what effect they have. So here we are, artists. I've put the artist on so you can see. John Singer Sargent. Well, I think John Singer Sargent is quite a strong artist prompt. It always has quite a strong effect. Remember, this is all with the same prompt. It's got the same prompt. The only thing that's changing is the artist, but I also am adding the medium to each one. So this is oil painting, John Singer Sargent, and this is what it produces. Peter Paul Rubens, it is vaguely Rubens. The face has a bit of Rubens in it. Wrong period, but I think it sort of knows what Rubens is. So Rubens might be a useful painter to quote. Rembrandt, it hasn't got any idea what Rembrandt is. I suppose the face might have a bit of Rembrandt, but it knows nothing of Rembrandt really, so Rembrandt will be a weak prompt. Vermeer also, it only knows one painting by Vermeer, and that's the girl with the pearl earring. And if I weight Vermeer, you just get a screen full of girls with pearl earrings. Bouguereau, fairly strong if you like smoothed off images. So Bouguereau has the effect of smoothing off the paint finish, which I can see being useful in some circumstances, but quite a strong prompt. Args does the same, sort of, but with a slightly cooler, more distant feel. But I think Bouguereau will be the stronger quote. Alphonse Mucha is just immensely strong. Whatever you do, Alphonse comes out on top. I don't know why, but he is pretty much the strongest artist. Degas is stronger than I expected. Degas produces a very nice feel. You can see it's even had to go at his signature down there. So it's obviously seen a lot of Degas. It's seen a lot of the ballet paintings in there somewhere, and it has quite a nice soft feel. This is Van Gogh, which is quite good for chunky brushstrokes. It's not like Van Gogh, even slightly, because there's none of those colours or anything in there. So it understands Van Gogh should be a bit rough and it should be miserable. It does. It obviously associates miserable with Van Gogh, which is, I suppose, fair enough. But it's not Van Gogh style. But it's quite a strong prompt if you want to roughen up and make it feel more hand done. I can see waiting in Van Gogh could have quite a good effect. And here are with Raphael. It has no idea who Raphael is. A weak prompt. Leonardo as well. It doesn't really know who Leonardo is. It can produce a Mona Lisa, but it has no idea who. Seurat, it just thinks dots, and not even the right sort of dots. So, but I could sort of see that being useful. Gustav Klimt is strong in a way you don't expect. It doesn't make it like Gustav Klimt, but it has a very strong effect. I have no idea why, but it gives character and strength. So maybe Gustav is up there in the winners. Leyendecker is very strong, really nicely structured. Everything is very nice about that, except the shadow, of course. Even the shadow has possibilities if you got rid of that one gap where the light goes right through her neck. But Leyendecker is a very, very strong artist quote. I don't know this lady, but I suspect she's not very cheerful. Remember, prompt has smile in it, and we ain't going to get a smile. I shall have to look her up. I have no idea who she is. But in the database of the images that go in to Stable Diffusion from the Leon database, she has quite a lot. She's right up there with Van Gogh. Kobe Whitmore as well is on that list, and again like Leyendecker, but a little slightly 50s America, but I think a very strong artist and an interesting artist to prompt. So I can see that teamed up with a Laura, painting Laura, and getting really quite nice results. Another one who's very strong. You may not have heard of him. Ivan Bilibin is I think he's about the same time as Arthur Rackham in the 1900s, and he was a famous illustrator and a very, very good illustrator in Russia. But obviously quite a few Ivan Bilibins have gone in there because that's made an image. It's moved the whole image. We've not got a sort of generic white wall. It's taken over the whole image. So Ivan Bilibin is a very strong quote. Sailor Moon, is that the character or the artist? I have no idea. I am entirely manga ignorant, or anime ignorant. But anyway, very strong. Very, very strong. Arthur Rackham, again, is always very strong. Arthur Rackham is right up there in the league of the number of pictures that have been put in the training material, as is Norman Rockwell. Norman Rockwell isn't quite as strong, but the figure is very good. So if you've got figures, very good. but it won't. He won't have much of an effect on the surroundings, as you see. The wall is a generic wall. This is Mobius. I was expecting Mobius to be a lot stronger. It's quite a nice comic strip style. Again, generic wall. It isn't strong enough to affect the wall, and that's how I'm judging it. Really, is the artist being prompted and strong enough to take that wall over? This one is. This is Frank Frazetta. There's blood on the wall, and she's the sort of lady who goes out fighting monsters in her underwear just for fun. So Frank Frazetta, a very, very strong artist to prompt. You see how much of an effect prompting him has had on the wall. It's taken the wall from a flat plane and made it, given it dimension. This is Alan Lee, who no one will have heard of. Who's still alive. I'm slightly reluctant to use artists who are alive because I have certain moral quandaries with it. However, Alan needn't worry because this is really not how he paints. This is watercolour Alan Lee. I think the watercolour, I think he knows a little bit. Alan Lee designed The Lord of the Rings and does very beautiful watercolours, but I don't think many of them are in there, so I don't think his work has been sampled a great deal. And there we go. So I hope that is useful and interesting. I'm not coming to any conclusions, but you can flick back in YouTube and have a look at them and decide for yourself which one is useful for you. And as I said, as I went through them, how much the prompting the artist or the style takes over the background, the white wall, which is why I put a blank white wall in. I think that's a pretty good guide as to the strength of the artist or style in the prompt. Okay, so that's it. I hope that was interesting. Thank you very much.